Sam and Julia had been friends for as long as they could remember. They had shared everything: secrets, laughter, fears. That evening, they visited Julia's grandmother at St. Vincent's Hospital, a place that always carried an air of quiet sorrow. The old woman was frail, her breath coming in shallow gasps, but she smiled weakly at them, holding Julia's hand for a long time. The visit left Julia uncharacteristically quiet. As they stepped into the elevator, Julia's shoulders slumped. Sam noticed and nudged her. "Hey, don't look so down. Want to play an elevator game?" He grinned, hoping to cheer her up. She rolled her eyes. "What kind of game?" "The one where you press certain floors in a sequence, and if you do it right, weird things happen." Julia scoffed. "Seriously? Come on, it's just for fun," Sam said, already pressing the buttons in a specific order. Julia sighed, letting him have his moment. The elevator hummed as it ascended. The doors opened. Instead of the hospital hallway, a long, dimly lit corridor stretched before them. It was silent. No nurses, no patients, no hospital staff. The air was heavy, wrong. Sam frowned and turned back toward the elevator panel. His stomach twisted. A rusted sign hung beside the door. "Lift not in operation." Julia exhaled sharply. "Sam, how did we get here?" He didn't have an answer. The buttons were unresponsive. There was no emergency button, no way to call for help, and the elevator refused to move. Something about the hallway made his skin crawl. It looked abandoned, and yet exit signs flickered at the end of the corridor. "We should leave," Julia whispered. Sam nodded. They stepped into the hallway, their footsteps echoing eerily. The silence pressed against them, thick and suffocating. Every door they passed was ajar, leading into pitch-black rooms. Empty. But as they walked, an unease settled over them. The exit signs led nowhere. They took one turn, then another. The same empty hallways stretched before them, leading them in circles. Sam's heart pounded. This isn't right. Julia's breathing grew ragged. "I don't like this." She stopped suddenly. They were back in the unlit hallway, but something had changed. The elevator doors were open now. Standing just beyond the threshold was a figure, tall, still, and silent. A man at least 6 feet tall, his head bowed slightly beneath the brim of an old, tattered hat. His face was obscured, swallowed by shadows. He did not move. The air grew thick and suffocating. Julia gripped Sam's wrist, her fingers digging into his skin. And then, the lights flickered. The figure tilted his head. Julia let out a choked gasp. They ran. Their footsteps pounded against the cold tile floor. The hallways stretched endlessly, warping, twisting. Sam could hear Julia's breath beside him, hear her gasping for air, until suddenly he couldn't. He turned. "Julia?" Silence. The hallway was empty. His pulse thundered in his ears. "Julia!" he screamed. No answer. He turned frantically, his chest rising and falling in panicked gasps. His hands trembled as he ran back the way they came, calling her name. Then he felt it. Presence. Behind him, he turned slowly. The figure stood there, towering over him. "She's no more." The voice was low and hollow. "Leave while you can." Sam's lungs burned with fear. The elevator behind the figure suddenly dinged open. He didn't think. He ran. His legs carried him forward, past the figure, past the suffocating darkness, and into the elevator. He slammed the buttons frantically, desperate for it to move. The doors slid shut just as the shadow took a step forward. The moment the doors were sealed, the oppressive atmosphere vanished. The air felt normal again. The hospital hallway appeared before him as if nothing had happened. But Julia was gone. Sam stumbled out, gasping for air. He sprinted to the nearest reception desk, his voice breaking as he pleaded for help. They had to find Julia. But when the security team reviewed the CCTV footage, his blood ran cold. There was no Julia. Not in the hospital, not in the elevator. Not anywhere. The footage only showed Sam alone talking, laughing, and screaming at nothing.